Boardwalk School of Economics, the right choice.
Okay, greetings, fam. Once again, we're back. This is part 5. So I'm trying to keep them lined up properly. This is part 5. Okay, this should be a good one. We're gonna take our time and go through this one. Let's see. Like I said, the Brookings.edu. These are a series of articles that they've done, and I go through these because it's that way. I'm not ad-libbing too much. I'm getting straight to the point here, so that way you can understand where I'm coming from with the ministry, the three-pronged ministry that can be found at powerthroughunity.org. It says, time will not heal. 5 ways to address the inheritance of black poverty. And my show notes, these titles and the link should be there in the show notes. Okay. Let's start here. And I'm going to elaborate and break this stuff down. Remember, these are just studies. But the studies pinpoint areas as an individual, as a group of people, your churches. Hopefully this will be your new church home because it's a two-way ministry. We educate you and you bless us with resources so we can be a blessing to others. And we teach you to be a blessing to others so you can be compensated for helping your brother and sister instead of just walking by them and leaving them there. So we develop a different mindset, that we are our brother and sister's keeper. All right. So these are studies that they've done. But these are just like everybody got these great books telling us what the problem is. That's good because you have to know history, but you got to take it further. You got to take action. So now we're going to go through some details of studies that they've done, and we have to make this come alive. We can't rely on them to do for us what we need to do for ourselves. All right. This is a study. So now we need to implement. We need to become proactive. Right? That's why you have consultants coming to the business to tell you what's wrong with the business so they can work to improve it. You got the police commissions now, civilian police commissions go in there and tell the police department what's wrong and what you need to do. So they need to do something about it. And this right here is the same thing. You need to do something about it. And my ministry, my three-pronged ministry, the three kingdom ministry is a tool that you can use to fix these issues with. All right? So let's go through it. Relax, meditate, get you some coffee, do what you do, relax, chill, and let's go through this material. And it's good to use this material in together with the legacy program, the estate planning legacy program. So you can play these tapes at your family meetings and so forth. Then you can discuss it, and you get a mindset. You want your children to have a different mindset at these family meetings and stuff. This is the time to make sure your children are on task, that they can read at their grade level and above. They do their spelling, their homework is up to date. You know what I'm saying? You can talk about what's going on in their lives. You can communicate with them. You want to make it where your children can come talk to you, right? You don't want to have an environment where your children are scared to talk to you. You want to have an open dialogue. You want to be involved in the process. You take some time to go to these PTA meetings and get involved with the school. But we want to have a university and home. Right? Whatever they do at school, socialization, that tunes up their brain. Just like when you have a job, you learning to organize yourself and be a good business person, be on time, and then you're going to take that into your life. The same thing with school. School is their job to get a good education so they can think right, so they can take this to the next level. Right? We can't have generational poverty continuing. And first it starts with the mind. So we have a university in every home, and it's very affordable. And when we get to so I don't forget it, when we get to the tax benefits, and I'm going to have that's why it's important that you go to the website, give me your email information, so that way I always hit you with some information. I'm not going to overwhelm you. Like some people, I like their stuff, but it's just too much. You know what I'm saying? And then that way you have the website that you can go to and study. And what I was mentioning before, and I probably didn't get into it, is when you go to powerthroughunity.org, it's a membership. So when you put your information in there and you have access to the back door, there's a whole university teach you how to do your businesses. We got information that you have access to. And if you have great websites that you love, that help us to be better people, you send that link so I can include it in the library. All right. But then you have portals where you can set up your own classrooms. If you have a course, maybe you're good at real estate or whatever, you can set up your classes and do it that way. You have a captive audience, people who want to do something with their life. See, so but what I'm doing is give you the educational tools, and then when you finish the 18-month program, I'm going to have a more in-depth course. Each one of the courses that you have, we have a more in-depth course, because what we're doing is just drawing a line in the sand. But each one of those subjects have a more in-depth curriculum that's associated with it. All right. So like I said, 18 months is a crash course, but learning is a lifetime. You know, our ancient ancestors, you were in school your whole life. So going to school and thinking you got it all going on, it's a continuous process of growing as an individual. And it makes your mind sharp, and all of a sudden you get a natural high off of knowledge. Just like you get that high when you buy new clothes and you're looking good and you got your nice car and all that kind of stuff. You know, when you build and develop your brain with knowledge and information that you can compete in society, that's a natural high as well. See, but you want to do both. You want to get that inner person going first, and then your outer self is going to prosper. See, instead of being a bankrupt all around. All right, so this is time to heal. 5 ways to address the inheritance of black poverty, because we pass down poverty from one generation to the next, and you'll see how we're not talking about how we got in this situation. We know how we're in the situation. We need to get out, and it takes everybody's help to do this, right? But as an individual, you have to be the CEO of your own life. You have to be responsible. All right, here we go. It says, I've been poor my whole life, like a disease passing from generation to generation. So says Toby Howard in the movie Hell or High Water. I've seen that movie. It's a pretty good movie. You know, bunch of brother bank robbers and so forth like that. When you don't go to school and get an education, prepare yourself, you end up stealing from other people because as your only means of survival, right? And you heard and it says, it is a poignant line. But one thing about the character makes a statement highly unlikely. He's white. And you'll see why. And you heard people say, you see a poor white person on the street and a black person say, man, what a waste of whiteness. You know what I'm saying? Because the likelihood of you being poor in this society that's built for your success and you not doing anything, they say, what a waste of whiteness. In white families, poverty is almost never passed down like a disease. Our just published paper shows that just 1.3% of whites are experiencing third generation poverty. By comparison, more than 1 in 5 black Americans, 21.3%, are in the third generation of their families to be poor. And we talked about that before in the other one, Long Shadows, the black-white gap and multi-generational poverty. We covered that one. All right, our paper represents the first attempt to analyze income mobility patterns across 3 generations, back to the civil rights era, and it is an empirical challenge. But the overall pattern is starkly clear. Black Americans are 16 times more likely to be in the third generation of poverty, defined as the bottom fifth of the income distribution, less than around $48,000 a year for a family of 4 in today's money. And black families don't even come close to that. See, time does not always heal. Why such a stark difference? The most obvious answer is that black poverty rates were so high indeed half a century ago. Most 30-something black Americans, 59%, have a grandparent who was poor, compared to just 9% of whites. But this is not just a matter of history. Even in more recent generations, the chances of being stuck in poverty are much higher for blacks, especially black men, than for whites. Blacks also face a much higher risk of downward mobility into poverty. Black poverty is much stickier across generations. It is said that time heals, but it is now quite clear that time alone would not heal the brutal inequities experienced by black Americans. Just as intentional public policy contributed to creating these gaps, so intentional public policy will be needed to close them. Here are 5 potential approaches that should be on the policy agenda. Now, like I said before, they've been doing studies. That's what they do studies. And there's always a 10-year lag between these studies and implementation, if at all, right? Because when Reagan came president, all these programs that were giving us upward mobility, they were stripped away, stripped out of our society, and just stripped away, and used that money to redirect it to the white middle class that they built up. So these are things that we can do ourselves. If the government does it, that's icing on the cake, but we have to bake the cake ourselves. We have to do the work. And then if the government come in with icing on the cake, so be it. That's a beautiful thing. But first of all, you can't put icing if you don't have a cake. So we have to build the infrastructure in place of our families and individuals. So now when the gravy come and the sauce come and the icing come, it'll be a beautiful thing. Because you just can't eat the icing, right? If you ain't doing nothing and if just eat the icing, just make you sick, and then it spoils and ain't nothing's gonna happen. So let's bake the cake, right? And whether they come with the programs or not, at least we'll be in a position to make them do what they need to do. But they're not gonna do it on their own. See, the marching and so forth, that stirred up the hornet's nest, right? That stirred up their consciousness, but it's just gonna settle back down to dust again unless we do something about it. And those who took advantage of the situation, the doors open and so forth, now we have to reach back and pull those up, and it's a great business opportunity. Black folks, those that's so-called making and stuff like that, you got these paychecks. You need to take those paychecks and invest it so it generate cash flow. So that way we have a grassroots economy and we have the corporate economy where the income comes and flows. Then eventually we can start, income will start flowing that way too. But we have to do better as a nation in order for this country, because we're slipping out of first place. If we're already out of first place, we don't make anything. We're not a manufacturing company. And all they care about is income, greed, money. See, there's more money, there's individuals, there's reality, touch and feely type things, like real life. And not just chasing after digits. Okay. It says here are 5 potential approaches that should be on the policy agenda. Transfer wealth to black families, right? We spend more than $1.3 trillion a year outside our community on other people. Just a fraction. We just took 10%, like you tithing in church. Instead of the 10% disappearing in the air into somebody's jet planes, or they will come on a Bentley or church parties and get-togethers and pastor anniversary nonsense, that 10% could be used to invest in the communities to build infrastructure, and then you make even more money. But we eating up the seeds. We gleaning the field and not doing anything with it. Through self-gluttony, just like this country, overexpending. Trillions of dollars in debt. And all we have is a polluted world and inflation to answer for it. Talking about global warming and stuff like that. That's where that greed and stuff, contributed to. Now we leaving other countries in Iraq, and you talk to these military people, they burning trash and tires and stuff, creating toxic air and that they breathing in, and come back with these maladies and so forth that the government just recently starting to recognize. Destroying other nations and stuff. You've been in there in Afghanistan 20 years. We produce waste. We even dump waste in the ocean. And then won't clean it up. Governments need to be concentrating on that instead of trying to lock down people and oppress them. That means the government is dysfunctional. Dysfunctional. Just like a rat. You can always tell a rat's been there because they leave mess behind. They leave destruction behind. Transfer wealth to black families. End housing segregation. Invest in education for black students. Support black men. Cut child poverty. These are nebulous concepts here. Transfer wealth to black families. We can do that ourselves until they get time to do it. But they're doing that with this child tax credit right now, which I'm going to do an email. I'm going to do a blog on that to teach us exactly to take advantage of that opportunity. But we'll talk about that a little later in this topic here. Transfer wealth to black families. In housing segregation. Listen. I like black communities, and most black communities aren't toe up and crime ridden and stuff. We have nice communities. is just looking at the news and stuff and you think is otherwise. But we have nice communities.